Hello, I'm Piers Corbin from weatheraction.com, long range weather and climate forecasters, and today is October the 1st and I'm going to give you now a Climate Wars update. I think it's fair to say in the last few months that the global warmers and their entourage have been on the run. But this particular paper tiger is still around, and it's not going to just lie down because there's so much money behind it. It's there to build a bubble of false value on carbon trading and help politicians get out of a hook when they need to raise taxes and can't find an excuse. But interestingly, politicians have been saying a lot less about it in the last few months because they know that this bubble is going to burst. Now, the latest defence of this Titanic is the fifth in a series of cover-ups and whitewash. And this one has come from the Royal Society. And on the 30th of September, they issued this report called Climate Change, a Summary of the Science. Now, this was put out in response to complaints from some members of the Royal Society who said that the Royal Society had gone a bit too far being associated with things which were not true. So one might have expected that this report would have been a bit more critical and in favour of evidence-based science, but actually it's just another in a series of cover-ups. And this report is a dereliction of the duty of the Royal Society to defend evidence-based science. You look through it and there's not a graph in sight, and their so-called evidence or support for climate change is based on opinions and computer models. Well, we know that all the predictions of the global warmers models as put through the United Nations have failed. And we know there's no evidence at all in history for CO2 being a driver of temperature or climate in the real atmosphere which we live in. You see, their models don't deal with a real atmosphere. The world and the atmosphere system is its own computer, and unless that does what it's expected to do under their theory, the theory must fail. And their theory does fail. So the Royal Society should report that. However, they do not report that. Instead, they come up with, quite frankly, arrant nonsense. Concluding remarks. There is strong evidence that changes in greenhouse gas concentrations due to human activity are the dominant cause of the global warming that has taken place over the last half century. Well, there's no evidence at all, and they can't produce any evidence, and when we ask them for evidence they go prattling on about Venus. Well, Venus is not Earth, and there's many reasons why Venus is what it is. Very significantly, they say nothing about extreme events in this, or more precisely, very little. Now, the whole reason for the existence of the IPCC, that's the United Nations Climate Change Committee, was to prepare or stop man-made climate change and the extreme events which it caused, i.e. stop the extreme events. But they don't say anything about the extreme events because there's no evidence that extreme events have anything to do with carbon dioxide. In fact, there's been less tornadoes in America, for example, in recent years. Whereas we at Weather Action, using solar activity, can predict extreme events. So you might ask, why doesn't the United Nations want to use our forecasts? Take our forecasts, prepare for extreme events, prepare for heat waves in Russia, which we predicted, prepare for the changes in what's going to happen in the monsoon and those floods in Pakistan, which we predicted. But they're not interested in that, because to take our approach on board would be to admit that the CO2 theory has failed, and therefore all the measures such as carbon trading, taxing the poor, taxing the rich, taxing the middle, taxing everybody, are invalid. So they're prepared to have people die through lack of application of science rather than have their scam destroyed. What we say is that the United Nations IPCC should be closed down, and the UN should instead set up an international operation to prepare for extreme events in a more effective way, which involves, of course, predicting them. And we could help. Now, end of this month, we'll talk about these things a bit more. During the last week of the month, there's going to be some Climate Fool's Day events, and they'll be advertised on our website. The Climate Fool's Day celebrating or uncelebrating the second anniversary of the UK government passing a law against nature, i.e. laws against climate change. So come on our website for more. Thank you.